You ever heard the saying, well, that spiraled out of control quick? So when I put the harmonic balancer to the side, I use fluid film. It's easy to find. There's other products out there. I mean, I got another one over here called Corrosion X. Basically the same thing. Now the reason why you want to spray it, you can see the lip seal polishes a region around the shaft off the harmonic balancer. So lip seals leaking are a function of a few things. Dynamic run out as it wobbles when it spins, and then it has to do with speed, and then it also has to do with surface finish, how smooth that is. Those three things are your main factors with lip seals and why they leak. So sometimes if you replace a lip seal, you might replace it once and then it'll start leaking eventually. So that's probably because your shaft, it was repolishing the surface. So by the third seal, if you put a third one in and it rides in the same ridge that the second one did, it might actually have a nice ridge to ride in that's already polished from the second seal. Otherwise, if this guy's too corroded, you got to do whatever your shaft is plus the lip seal, or the lip seal. Do that one again. Easiest way to get to the valve cover, I'm pretty lazy, so I just leave things connected. I labeled them just in case I disconnect them. Just throw them in the back, come around this side, fuel line, one bolt, that guy dangles. This bracket, 2 bolts on the head, and then all this moves to the side. Same thing with this bracket here. There's a bolt right over here. Take that one out. This bracket moves over. Everything will clear when you go to move the valve cover up and out. The only thing that does suck about this after you undo these looms here is these two guys right here. They tend to like to bond in the head. So don't be surprised if you break them taking them out. I'm thinking about just leaving them there because the O-ring's on the top. And if you just pull the valve cover straight up, they should just come right out of the block. And then after that, valve cover will come straight up. So you might actually have to remove these guys. In order to make it easier, you can get a pry bar in there and you just pry on it and you can twist it back and forth. See that? Just twist it back and forth to break it free, and then makes it easier to get out if you just keep working it back and forth. Look in here. Remember, this is Mobile 1, about every 6,000 miles, religiously changed since I bought the car with 30,000 miles. If you look at the cam lobe, there's almost no wear on that thing. These cam lobes look like they came right out of the factory. Look at that. Mobile 1 for you. Look at that lobe. There's no wear. There's no divots. It looks pretty amazing. And then on top of that, there really isn't any varnish or sludge buildup anywhere. So it's just a very thin coating for a 9-year-old engine. This is pretty impressive. You wouldn't expect to see that on a 9-year-old engine with 170,000 miles. So then we get over to where our timing chain is. I was messing around with this thing a little bit, and for a better lack of words to put it, it feels like a piece of string. It's pretty stretched out. I mean, you can just see, watch the, look at the movement. Look at that link, how it just, I don't know if that's normal, but that's definitely signs of a chain that's pretty worn in. Other than that, everything looks like it's in very good shape and condition. Even the gears, they look pretty, there's almost no wear on the gears. Look like they came out of the factory. If I can get a focus on that one, there you go. Look at the sprockets, don't really look like they have much wear either. It's interesting. So anyhow, the valve cover itself, you got a little varnish buildup, but it's nothing, not too bad. If you're thinking about using the valve cover gaskets again, let me let you know, they're compression set, they're baked, they're brittle, and they just break apart. So plan on having to buy a new set. So to properly clean all these surfaces, I'm about 2 hours in. Now, if I were like say an auto shop or back in the day when I worked in a shop, what would happen is I would just take a zinger and I would just zing all these surfaces and let all the crap fly into the head because it's not your car. And book time doesn't pay for proper surface prep where all the crap doesn't fall into the cylinder head and oil, all that dust. So if you're going to do this job yourself, you might as well do it better than the way a shop's going to do it, because 2 hours they're not going to waste your time. So I just take a flat edge and you just scrape it off, dampen up a paper towel, hold it off to the side and just kind of sweep it like a broom, scraping it. Don't press too hard, you don't want to cut into aluminum. Minor surfaces with these types of gaskets, they still seal on, so you have to have one heck of a gouge in there for it to not seal. But other than that, as long as the surfaces are smooth, with some type of flat edge, you can use credit cards, whatever, then acetone it. That's how you would do it. So I'm about 2 hours in just on the surface prep. Okay, so I got the timing cover back off again on my wonderfully fun job I'm having here in life. So it's Monday, I was able to get parts. Now you're probably wondering, how the heck is my old timing chain that was originally on the vehicle timed up? Black mark there, you got the yellow one there, and then down at the bottom in the crank, you can see the black timing chain lines up with the mark on the crank. No, I didn't get lucky. Once again, you gotta have no luck in order to just have bad luck. What I did was I used this long extension on the 1/2 inch and I spun the crank with the spark plugs out to make it easier. And it turned over probably about, I think, 7, 8 full revolutions of that timing chain before I was able to get it lined back up. So I was spinning this thing for at least a good 5-10 minutes. So I like to just have all the marks lined up before I do things like this. It's not a big deal. There's the top guide that goes right there. As you can see, 170,000 miles with Mobil 1. There's pretty much no wear on that thing. Here's the black tensioner. As you can see, there's no wear, 170,000 miles. And then you can also see right there, factory manufacturer, Cloys. So I wouldn't be afraid of buying the Cloys timing set if you're in the market for this job. But yeah, pretty impressed with Mobil 1 so far. It's pretty clean and virtually no wear in this engine. And then when I looked inside, when I took the spark plugs out, I changed those too. Looked down into the piston area. All 4 cylinders look as healthy as they could possibly be. I'm pretty impressed. Same thing with the spark plugs, I'll show you. Here are some of the spark plugs. I change them every 70,000 miles. I mean, they don't get much better than that. I couldn't ask for a cleaner, better running engine than what I have. They're perfect. So I threw a new set in. I looked down into the piston area, and the top of the pistons looked beautiful too. So the top hole's round, the bottom one's slotted. And because I do have wear on the top edge of the factory OEM one, just ever so slightly, you can see some chain wear there. I'm going to use the Cloys one. So I went ahead and bought the Cloys replacement for that guy there. And when I install it, I noticed something that I'm not sure if it's right or wrong, but this guy here, the new one, when it's installed, there's absolutely no play, which makes me think that guy is a little bit over constrained, and since plastic, that's not very good. I don't know, maybe it's supposed to be that way, but I don't know. So then when I go back to the original GM one and I look at the design of this thing, that's a slight hole. So let me see here. It goes like this. Okay, that hole there is just a circle. This one's slotted for up-down movement. So it's really not supposed to wiggle this way, but the original factory one just got the ever so slight movement. So this way you won't be over constraining it when you bolting it down. what's right or what's wrong to do. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this situation. I'm leaning towards using the factory because I know with that slight movement, not going to be over constrained when bolted down, so it won't be preloaded with stress. The Cloy's one that I just purchased, I'm debating on taking that one out because once you bolt it down, it's locked in solid. This guy's preloaded with some force, and I'm afraid that it might break. I don't know. So this is another one of those things when you buy the aftermarket parts, it's kind of like, what do you do? On top of that, there's the tensioner guide. Once again, same surface, no wear on it. I'm comparing the old and the new tensioner. This is the original factory GM. One thing you can see about the Cloys, they put this marking on a surface that's trying to be a precision surface finish in order to not use a gasket to the engine block. Now, how much it really matters, because you probably got more oil flow than you need, it's just one of those things where if you're going to put a mark to indicate your manufacturing, put it on the side that's not a surface to seal on. I don't get it, but whatever. I mean, it's far enough away, it's probably okay. The next thing is most of the castings look about the same. The one thing I do notice is the Cloy's version versus the GM version. When I'm looking at the staking, because this is staked, you can clearly see this GM version. I mean, they really staked this thing. Look at that. That disc is not coming out. That thing is staked as a stake comes. Same on the back. Look how hard they staked that thing. That's really in there. Then I come over and look at the Cloy's version from their kit. I don't know what's going on, man. This one is kind of staked. And then when I look at the back, it's like, dude, is that even gonna hold? I don't know. Doesn't look staked as good as the one from GM. Also, because I saw Cloy's was the OEM brand on there, the only way to get the balance shaft chain is to buy the kit. 81 bucks, not too bad. The timing chain kit that has a lot more in the plastic guides. My guides aren't broken, 9 years old, 170,000 miles. I probably got a good set if they had some bad ones going out into the field. So I'm gonna keep the ones I got. They don't look worn at all on the surfaces. This guy's about 40 bucks. This guy's about 36 bucks. The kit would have been 140, so I'm gonna reuse most of my stuff on there. Plus my gears don't look terribly worn. Then when it comes over to here, I went to the GM dealer again. So you got to be really careful with these covers here. And the reason is they no longer are just a cover. They're actually part of the oil gallery system. So if this gasket's compression set, you could be losing oil, spitting straight back into your oil pan, not getting to the engine. So you always want to make sure to replace these gaskets when they age, because once that rubber compression sets and you try to reuse it, there's no guarantees you'll get fluid flowing in, because it might just leak out the side. Also, when you get vehicles with variable valve timing and they pass that oil up through to the cylinder head, there's O-rings. And if you don't replace those O-rings, you won't get the proper pressure to your cam phaser, and then you'll start throwing cam phaser faults, all because of a stupid 30-cent O-ring in the side cover that's shooting oil out the side rather than flowing it into the cylinder head. So always, when you get covers like this, always replace these gaskets. And then because the seal on the crankshaft is probably old and also compression set, that guy's probably gonna end up leaking. So this was the dealer got me 20 bucks on that. This guy that hit me 40. It is what it is when you're in a bind. You have to go to a local dealer. Otherwise, I typically order these from like a GM parts store online.